Hello, how are you? Happy whatever day it is that you're watching this, because it might not be today. I'm really excited because I want to go through a really in-depth, layer by layer exploration of where you're self-sabotage with food. And this could be self-sabotage with all kinds of things, but where you're self-sabotage with food, body image struggles, binge eating, food addiction, emotional eating, compulsive eating, binging and purging. It could be self-sabotage with body, weight, money. Patterns are very similar. It's just that we choose different means of self-sabotage, and a lot of us have chosen food. So I want to dive deep into this today. And this is going to be a multi-part series. And if you can't catch it live, I will post the replays and you'll be able to watch those as well. Save this, share it with someone that you think can resonate with it, because I know self-sabotage with food is impacting so many women on this planet. It significantly impacted me. I'm going to share some of my experience examples and what I've observed with some of my clients. But today is part one. So part one is, where did your self-sabotaging behaviors with food come from? And so today we're going to explore, a lot around your upbringing, your parents, your family, the way they were with food and body and diets. We're going to go into lineage. We're going to go into, media and childhood and toys and bullying. We're going to go into the inner child wounding. We're going to also, for those of you that are open, and if you're not, just slough this part off, but I encourage you to have an open mind. We're going to go into your soul contract, and a bit more in the spiritual realm as well, because this is bigger than just you struggling with this in this lifetime. This is so much bigger than this, and you came here to learn certain lessons if you're open to believing that. So let's start with where self-sabotage originated from. So if you're struggling with emotional eating, food addiction, binge eating, binging and purging, do you know where it started? Because one of the reasons it can feel really hard to heal is because we don't know where it came from, and that it's not just as cut and dry as having more willpower and going on a diet and being rigid. It's so much deeper than that. And I hope this series that I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks will help to open you up to the depth to which self-sabotage really is, and that it will hopefully inspire you to stop the quick fixes, to muster up your courage and actually do your deeper work to heal this and gain full freedom from it. And of course, at the end, I will talk a little bit about what I have to offer, the kind of support and programs available. And if you feel called, you can reach out, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you in the DMs or in a body freedom consultation. So when you are born, right, you come into this world fully unconditionally loving yourself. And your habits with food, body, perception of self, most of it is developed between the age of 0 to 7. And this is when your subconscious mind is fully open, and it literally takes in everything. All the imagery, all the TV shows you watch, all the toys you play with, things, the visuals that you see, the chatter going on with your parents, your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, your families, your friends, whoever raised you, right? And so you take all of this in it, and then you build your own identity with food, your body, right? All of this. So where this really starts is this upbringing and how your family was with food. So some examples, right? Like when I was growing up, my mom had multiple sclerosis before I was born. And so for her, she had a food addiction. I just didn't know at the time. There was always lots of junk food available. I could eat as much of it as I wanted. She was always, putting herself down and saying how much she hated her body. So she was struggling with body image issues. I have other clients who their parents put them on diets at a young age, poked at their tummy and made fun of them, criticized what they ate, or maybe it wasn't with food, but it was perfection. Oh yeah, you got those grades, but that's not good enough. You can try harder. And that morphed to perfection behavior, and then that morphed into perfection with food, and then completely losing control with food. I've had clients tell me that they grew up with mothers who literally had a chart in the bathroom where they are weighing themselves multiple times a day and writing down all the numbers. And then they took that on and learned that you have to be so rigid and controlling with managing weight because you have to look a certain way to be happy. So first, and gather a journal if you haven't already to take notes, but it's what was your and it's not a judgment. It's what was your upbringing like with weight, with body image, with food? Were you bullied, right? Did people call you names? When I was 5, one of my life-defining moments at the time was going on the bus the first time and being called fat and ugly by the older boys, and then the whole bus making fun of me. And I took that identity on for the next 20 years of my life. And I didn't realize it was just a silly joke and that I shouldn't have taken it personally. When you're 5, a lot of us don't have those kinds of coping skills to just brush things off, right? So what were your parents like with food? What were they like about commenting about you and your weight or their own weight? Were they always dieting? Were they restricting? Did they not allow certain foods in the house, or was it a free-for-all, right? Did you get bullied at school, or your siblings make fun of you and your body? Right? Is it that you started playing with Barbies at a young age and certain toys, and there was such a skewed body image, and you thought that that's what you're supposed to look like, and you started comparing yourself and thinking there must be something wrong with me because I don't look like that, right? This is where it all begins. Now, there's another key part of what can birth and create self-sabotage with food that is actually before we're born, and it is our lineage. So we all have a lineage, we all have a family line that we've come from. And I want to share some examples of how we can inherit these behaviors unknowingly and unconsciously until we start to look back at our lineage. And this is something that I really learned as I was healing my relationship with food. And it was really like, why am I always in this mentality of like, I don't have enough food, I don't have enough money, like a lack mentality. And I need to make up for lost time, and I need to do this and eat this, because if I don't, like, I don't know when I'll get to have it again. This is the last time I'm going to binge. This is the last time I'm going to emotionally eat. So I better, get my basket full of food and get as much as I can and eat it, because if I'm going to start my diet again tomorrow, like, this is it. So it's like that all or nothing lack mentality. And as I started healing my relationship with food, what I started to realize is I came from a line of about 4 to 5 generations of lack, of hoarding, of not having enough. So back in the early 1900s, when my great-grandparents were immigrating over to Canada, they had to essentially start their lives over. And they started a homestead and started farming and didn't really have anything. And then they started to build up some capacity and had my grandparents. And then the Great Depression hit and they lost everything. So talk about something that if we're not taught how to cope with the world and different things going on in the world, we can end up just panicking and then going into a lack mentality and going like, I need to save everything. I don't know if this is the last time I'm going to get food. I don't know like if this is the last time I'm going to have any money to buy things. So there's this like saving of everything, which it's great to save certain things, right? And be prepared. But there was this like over obsession with it. And now all of a sudden it's like the house is full of all of these things and there's so much clutter and this hoarding. And then of course, my grandparents started to, gain success with the farming and had our parents, right? So I remember my mom, I would always ask her, like, why do you have so much costume jewelry? Or why is there always, like, so much more food in the house than, like, we could ever eat? And she'd always say to me, well, because when I was a child, I didn't have a lot and I'm making up for lost time, right? I want to compensate for what I didn't have when I was a child. So this first 2 generations of great-grandparents, grandparents, and then parents, right, being taught from like these past world events that really impacted their mental state and their state of abundance versus lack. And so my mom grew up in a house where everything was saved still, because her parents, my grandparents, were still in this old mentality of, oh my gosh, we've got to prepare for the next disaster, so we better hang on to everything and more and hoard, and we better like eat as much as we can for fear of losing the food and not having it anymore. So there's trauma in this lineage of things happening and losing things, and then wanting to tightly grip, which comes from lack, which comes from need, which comes from fear and worry and disempowerment. And I think it's so important that we work on these lack mentalities and these fear, worry mentalities, and this fear of losing everything and not ever feeling like we have enough. And usually there's a tie to unworthiness there. I'm not good enough. I never have enough. No matter how much I have, I don't feel good enough. No matter how much food I eat, I don't feel satisfied enough. No matter how many times I binge, it's never enough. And that's because there's this void there, this lack of self-love that starts to be built when we're a child. And then it just grows and grows, and we ignore ourselves and our bodies, and we tune too much into the external world, and we get distracted, and then we don't heal, and then this void gets bigger, and no amount of food, money, success, external things will ever fill it. And that's why you don't feel fulfilled. But the lineage plays a huge role, because like I said, I'd get all my food and I'm like, this isn't enough. Like, I don't have enough. And it really came back to my mom's upbringing and how she was with food and how my grandparents and my great-grandparents beyond were in the lineage. So I discovered that I had this lineage of lack and hoarding and wanting to overconsume based on those past 4 generations and beyond. It could have even been prior to that, but I don't know that lineage. So what we don't understand is this is passed down in generations: body image issues, weight obsession, diet obsession, not feeling good enough, people pleasing, perfection, binge eating, emotional eating, whatever your self-sabotaging relationship is with food, alcoholism, drug addiction, shopping addiction, like mindlessly spending money, right? Putting all your worth into other people's hands. Like, these habits and behaviors are so tied to our lineage and our upbringing, and it's not anyone's fault, but it's just that if it hasn't been healed, it can impact us more. However, the beauty of it was for me, I healed the lineage. It will not continue past me, which is so powerful. And that's what I see with my clients. They heal the lineage and they're not going to pass these behaviors on, which to me is such a gift and is so profound and has such a positive impact, first of all, on us individually, and then on our families and our friends, and it has a ripple effect out. So are you aware of your lineage, and are you coming from a place where there's lack? I don't ever have enough. It's so important to work on that, and stay tuned, because I am going to be creating more content, podcasts, even some programs and more support coming up around like this lack mentality, because a lot of us have it with money and fearing not having enough, and then it comes with food and fearing like lack with, body image and weight, and like, I'm never going to look good enough, I'm never going to be taken seriously, I'm never going to have the right relationship. And lack looks like so many different things, but it still comes from this place of unworthiness and not feeling whole and complete. So it doesn't matter what you're feeling you're lacking, as long as you're in fear and focusing on what you don't want, you're creating more of a reality where you're manifesting that, and we don't want to do that. So I'm going to talk a lot more about that, but the lineage plays a huge role. So we're born, the first 7 years of our life, we're taking in all this information, we're observing the way our parents behave, the way they talk to themselves, the way they are with food, right? The way they speak to us about food and our bodies. And then we're taking all that on and we're developing these opinions and beliefs and thoughts and behaviors about ourselves, with food, with our bodies, right? And a lot of it ends up unfolding in unhealthy ways. And maybe for you, it wasn't at a childhood that you started to develop unhealthy body image issues or habits with food. It may have been your teens or your 20s. It may have been last week. But it's to start to understand that there's things that happened, in your past and or in childhood that have crafted you into the person you are today and could be contributing to that. Hi, Holly, welcome. I hope your day is going well. So I don't know if any of that resonates for you. Feel free to drop a comment, but if it is, this is just deep and juicy, and it's so important for us to really understand. So another part of where our self-sabotage comes from is there's this combination of like foods that we're fed, right? Like, a lot of the foods that are sold in the store are addictive, and they're designed to be addictive on purpose, to give you a dopamine high so that you become a lifetime customer and you give these companies a lot of money, and slowly over time you become addicted and reliant and you crave them. We're not supposed to crave processed foods like sugar and salt and things like that. Like, I don't have any cravings because I've healed the emotional and physical block, but we crave all kinds of processed things when we are out of alignment with our bodies, when we don't love ourselves, when we have this void. So I think it's so important for us to understand that a lot of the food has been developed, especially in the last 50 years, to make us addicted to it. And look at all the commercials, look at all the ads, look at all the shiny marketing. It's always to push and promote big box food that's made in a lab. And a lot of people just don't understand, like, it gives you a dopamine hit, and then you store pleasure memories in the brain, and you associate eating certain foods with these pleasure memories. And I'll talk more about this as this series goes. But if your parents were giving you certain things as a child, and or you were eating certain things as a child, and you start craving it, you want it all the time. Or maybe when you were a kid, you'd hurt yourself, or you'd get a good grade on a test and your parents would reward you with food. And then you've created this reward complex with, like, if I'm sad or upset, I eat. If something good happened, I eat. So all of this comes from childhood, but there's no doubt of a lie that refined sugar is 10 times more addictive than cocaine. And for those of us who've had an emotional relationship with food, it's a lot easier to get into an addictive like tendency with refined sugar, aspartame, MSG, some even gluten and dairy, because the casein in the dairy and the gluten in the wheat products can excite the same part of the brain as a hard drug. It's been so altered in the last 50 years, and so much has been made in a lab, and there's actually labs where they test for the sweet spot, where you get the perfect high. And that's like all your big box food companies. If you Google the top 10 biggest food companies in the world, these are the companies that are doing this. And so they create us to become lifetime customers at a young age. They put all the kids cereals and all the stuff on the lower shelves so it's easy to reach, right? And then they do all the marketing and make it really shiny and appealing to kids and drop it all the time. So you see it all the time. And as you grow up, you see it, and then you think about it, and then you want it. It's all done by design. It's very deep. It's very corrupt. It's very dark, to be honest with you. If you know anything about the food industry and how insane it is, right? And maybe I need to do more content on this. If you want me to go deeper into the corruption of the food industry, leave a comment, let me know in the DMs, because part of my, as an aside, and I shared this in my stories yesterday, I really have realized that it's easy for me to share about my past history with binge eating, but there's certain things that I hold back on in my content or in my sharing for fear of being vulnerable, for fear of triggering you too much, for fear of you leaving, for fear of you like not liking it or thinking I'm a quack. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm so over this. Like, I want to share what I know, and for those that it's resonant, great. And if it's not, you can totally leave. But I want to be more open and honest and authentic, and that means me getting more vulnerable and detaching from the thoughts and opinions of others. Like, we're always doing our deeper healing, and this is my next step. So I'm definitely going to be creating more content that's very authentic and honest, because I want you to know, and then you can decide what you want to do with the information, if you believe it or not. But addiction was created on purpose to really mess with us and our psyches and our mental health, and disconnect us from our deep connection to our intuition, our intuitive gifts, our power, how powerful we are as human beings, as men and women. And it really has us distracted. It really has us so out of our power. When you're fighting with your body and you're in food addiction, you're emotionally eating, you're obsessing about the next diet and the number on the scale, and you don't feel good enough, you are not able to tap into your power, your confidence, your worth, your purpose at a really deep level, your intuitive gifts, your feminine nature. When you're fighting, you're so distracted, you're so caught up in it, your vibration drops, you're in more frazzled, chaotic energy, and it's really hard. And I went through this, and I see my clients go through this too. And the clarity and the breakthroughs and the healing and the connection that occurs when we really choose to heal this on a deep level is profound and life-changing. Okay, I'm so glad that you said please share always. Yeah, and I appreciate that. Like, validation's always great. And like I said, if people don't resonate, they can leave. But I feel like we're in a state in the world where a lot of people are on an awakening journey, where they're waking up to certain things within themselves and on this planet, and it's getting pretty blatantly obvious, the level of corruption that has been going on, especially with big food and big pharma. And food corruption was one of the first things that I woke up to as I started to heal, and it's just pretty obvious, right? Like, you can go to the store, you can look at an ingredient label like Doritos, and there's like 50 ingredients, half of them you can't pronounce. There's 10 different kinds of MSG. Like, why are food products like this available and allowed? Why is the FDA approving this? Why are they making commercials about it and shoving it down our throats? Because there's very deep agendas here, people. That's why. Anyways, I could talk about that all day, and I will one day more. I've got my little sticky note because I don't want to forget anything. Little content tip if you're doing lives, just write things down so you don't forget anything. But yeah, so there's this deep programming that occurs for us between age 0 to 7. So when we're between age 0 to 7, right, and we start hearing about, our parents talking about food, the way they're behaving with food, we start watching TV, we see the commercials, right, all the junk food commercials, the chip commercials, the candy. I just remember the fruit roll-up commercials, the Dunkaroo commercials, right? And then you're like, I want that. That looks really good. I want that. So there's this programming we receive from all the commercials, the shows that we watch where they're consuming certain products, and you start idolizing the people in those shows. And then you're like, I want to be like them, right? Because we don't learn our sense of self-worth, and instead we idolize and obsess about celebrities and public figures and people that we've never met and people that are making all kinds of money and have success, but we don't know their intent, that, you know, we don't know where they came from or anything about them, but we get attached to tying our identity and worth up in these external figures and looking like, behaving like, talking like even, and acting like these people, which I think is just such a shame, because it takes us away from our individual identities and us gaining clarity of who am I as a person. And instead we're going, I want to be like this person. I need to be like this person because they're famous, they're rich, they have a big following, they have millions of Instagram followers. And it's like, that is not what being an incredible, intelligent human being is all about. I'm all for inspiration, but when it gets to the point where we are so at a loss with our own identity and we are behaving in certain ways because we think that that's what's going to help us to fit in and finally be good enough and get validation and praise from society, we are in a very disconnected relationship with ourselves. And there's a massive unworthiness, and that starts at childhood. Like, I remember starting to watch movies and gain a liking for certain celebrities and public figures and be like, I want to be like them. So I'd start talking like them and behaving like them. And like, we don't realize the significant impact that has on us as we grow up, because we grow up out of touch with ourselves. We grow up feeling unworthy. We grow up feeling like we have to dress a certain way, look a certain way, fit certain societal, you know, norms, which should not be norms. Like, you know, having to lose a certain amount of weight and fit in a certain box with our body image. And unfortunately, all of this is really heavily pushed by Hollywood. And there's been a lot of, you know, reason behind that to have women and humanity be disempowered with their body. And then you feel insecure, you feel desperate to be loved, liked, and approved of. And so then they sell you all these products that these celebrities endorse that they're just getting paid a lot of money to endorse. And then you want to fit in with them. So you buy the products, you behave in certain ways, you take on certain beliefs, etc., that you may not ever, if you know, we're not letting these celebrities have so much influence on you. I personally think Hollywood is a very unhealthy, very poor influence on society. I mean, you see it today. I've never seen so many women feel disempowered and unworthy and want to alter their bodies to get validation from external society, which you're going to chase validation forever. You're going to feel unworthy forever if you feel that altering your body, losing a certain amount of weight is going to fix everything. I know we literally get brainwashed and convinced that that is the way, but it's not. And we fight with our bodies. We put our body through hell and back. We punish our bodies. We starve our bodies. We're cutting our bodies open and injecting all this stuff into our bodies. We're binging and shoving our emotions down. We're belittling and name calling and putting our bodies down every day. We are trying to force our bodies to do movement they don't want to do. And, you know, it's just torture. And all of this was birthed from these systems that have literally been infiltrating our minds, brainwashing us, conditioning us that you have to look perfect. And there is no level of perfection. It is about you choosing to want to love and accept yourself. But it starts at childhood with the Barbie dolls, with the toys that have a distorted body image, with the shows we're watching on TV, the movies, the music videos, the media. Right? I remember being a kid and being like, I feel so cool that I bought the Britney Spears album. I feel so cool that I bought Now Too. I feel so cool. I feel like I'm an adult because I bought these CDs and I have these VHS tapes, right? Like growing up being a kid in the late 80s and 90s. It's like they condition you to want to be older, and then you start purchasing with your allowance like these products, and it's just getting so ingrained in your mind. Like when you're 7, 8, 9, 10, and all you see is these young pop stars with their belly button exposed, and they're so thin, and like their 1,000-calorie diets are being promoted in all the tween magazines. Like, how do you navigate that if you're, you know, wanting to fit in and you're comparing yourself and you're thinking, what's wrong with me because I don't look like that? I guess I have to do this 1,000-calorie diet. So our minds are very infiltrated at a young age by Hollywood, the media, the magazines, the toys, the music videos, the food commercials. And then we're taught that, oh, you need to lose weight, do a diet, cut calories. That's what you're taught in school. There's no self-love, self-worth classes in any of the school that I went to or that I talked to my clients about. And that's such a miss. But one of the reasons behind that is because if you learn to love yourself and you take your power back, these diet industries, these big food industries, these, you know, garbage products that are being pushed by all these celebrities, people don't buy them because they realize it's my responsibility to heal and my responsibility to build my worth, and no amount of external purchases or diets or food products or points counting is going to get me there, right? But we've been so consumed and distracted with diets, with quick fixes, with meal plans, with calorie counting apps, with weight loss and weighing in all the time, with the negative self-talk, with buying clothes that are 2 sizes too small. And it's like, this is my reward. Once I lose the weight, I'll be able to wear this. Once I lose the weight, I'll be able to go on this trip. Once I lose the weight and look good enough, then I'll date. Then I'll start the business. Then I'll gain the success. And we're literally delaying our lives, because if you never get there, you're literally delaying and holding back in your life, which is not okay. So we are really brainwashed, in my opinion, and conditioned from a young age. If we've had access to televisions, magazines, imagery, right? Repetition, and remember this word, repetition, is why so many women feel unworthy, why so many women don't love their bodies, why so many women are stuck in self-sabotaging behaviors, because it is the repetition of constantly seeing and being fed the same imagery, the same behavior, the same content into your mind over and over again, that then conditions you to think that this is the epitome of a perfect female body. This is what I have to look like and behave like. And if I don't look like the images in my mind, there must be something wrong with me, when that is so false. So what do they do with repetition? Well, it looks something like every magazine cover has a photoshopped edited woman on it, right? All tons, and I know it's shifting a bit now, and there's the body positivity movement, which has its healthy and unhealthy dynamics as well. But most of the magazine covers are photoshopped edited women who all look the same, right? A lot of them are really unhealthily thin. And then you have all the movies and music videos where a lot of it's edited in Photoshop, but it's all the same, just like really thin women with their belly buttons exposed, right? All the ads, all the beauty ads, like it's all the same. And then you wonder why you don't like your body and why you hate yourself while you're self-sabotaging, then going to the diets. Because it's not just the food you consume that is impacting your body. It is, more importantly, the content that you're consuming into your mind, that you're observing, watching, absorbing, and taking in, that then really conditions us to have negative beliefs toward ourselves, because we start comparing and we get upset and think, well, I'm not that successful. I don't have that money. Look at them. Look at what they've created. It must be because of their body. And we create these false assumptions when that's not the case. So all of this starts during childhood, and then through our early, tweens, teens, we really go through it harshly. And men are taught that women need to look a certain way, and if they don't, then they're not good enough, so treat them differently. Like, there's so much here. But it's the repetition of the imagery that you're constantly consuming, the content you're constantly consuming, that has shaped a lot of the beliefs that you have about yourself and your body, and what's supposed to look like, and how you chase validation from society and the external world, when it's actually about you going inward to build your worth. So of course there's that whole part of it, which I feel like I could just talk about for days. But how has that impacted you? How has the media world, Hollywood, magazines, shows, music videos, Celebrityville, like how has all of that impacted you and your body image and your worth? And now we have social media and influencers and Instagram and all of that. How has that influenced the way you feel about your body, your worth, your body image? I think it's really important to be really real and honest with yourself. And like I posted on my post the other day, like spend less time giving it to all these shows and content, and take more of that time to go within and heal yourself. Because it's such a distraction to spend so much time being consumed with people's lives that you've never met, that are on a box square, and then you're complaining because you don't have time to take care of yourself, right? Like there's always time. It's just what are your priorities and what you're focusing on. So we've talked a bit about the familial upbringing, what kind of relationship your parents had with food, diets, perception of their bodies. We've talked about, right, okay, what was the dynamic with food at home? Was there any restriction? Were you put on diets? Were you told you couldn't eat certain foods? Was there never any junk food brought into the house, so you decided to rebel and closet eat and buy stuff and hide in the closet and eat it? Were you in a dynamic where you had lots of siblings and they would eat all the dessert and then there'd be none left for you. So you started to go and like get your own and hide in the closet and eat it. Were you put on diets? Were you just had the free-for-all where you could eat whatever you wanted whenever you wanted, right? What kind of relationships did your mom, your dad, your aunt, whoever raised you have with their body and their own worth? It's all very connected to what you may be going through now. Your lineage, what kind of past lineage in the generational, right? Like your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, etc. Did they go through lack? Did they go through hoarding? Did they struggle with body image issues? Because if it's not addressed, it just gets passed on. And then we end up here and we end up with it and it's not fun, right? Now we have the childhood, the toys, the kind of content we're consuming, the people we're around. Did we get bullied? Did people make fun of us for our weight? Right? So there's all of this that comes in, and then the content we consume and the attack from, the diet industry, Hollywood, big food, that we have to look a certain way, but then they're shoving all this garbage food in our face that makes us addicted and inflamed and puffy. And then they sell you the solution, which is go on a diet that's not going to work and it's going to mess with you mentally even more. Right? The last piece, which to me, I was like really relieved to learn this, and some of you this may resonate with, and some of you this may not resonate with, so take what does and leave the rest. But when you heal your relationship with food, you really wake up to like your spiritual nature. Like I'm an empath, I'm very sensitive to energy, I have an intuition, I really believe in all of that. And I started learning about the soul. Like the soul is infinite. I really believe we come down here, we have human experiences, and we have more than one life. That's what I believe. You don't have to believe that, but I do. And Earth is the school planet, the learning planet. We come here to actually, one of the main reasons souls will come to the planet and, live in human bodies is to learn to love ourselves. And there's a lot of that going on this planet right now, right? There's a lot of self-sabotage going on the planet right now. So believe it or not, what I believe is that your soul sits down with your guides and angels and is like, okay, like let's go down to earth, let's play. What lessons do you want to learn? And you decide, I'm going to go through food addiction, I'm going to struggle with body image issues, I'm going to go through this, because there's specific lessons that you come here to learn to aid in your evolution as a soul. And so part of it is that you come here to experience this and to heal it. You're very powerful and you're not meant to struggle with this for life. And then as you heal, you start to learn not only about you and your limiting thoughts and negative beliefs, you start to learn about your lineage, you start to learn about what's been passed down for generations, you start to learn about your intuition and your gifts, right? Like I interviewed one of my clients, I'm doing like video testimonials for Instagram, and she is having a full change of heart in her career now because she's healed her relationship with food, and she's started a beautiful body oil company blending all of her own essential oil blends, like for morning, for energy, for sleep. And her purpose is completely changed, and she's gained so much clarity of her true purpose because she healed her relationship with food, right? So our true purpose really can land, if we don't already have it, as we heal. So there's so much benefit around that. But this is a deep soul journey, right? Like I believe in past lives as well, and I learned that I was a starving prisoner in a past life, so I was making up for lost time in this lifetime. I learned that I was really struggling with, all I could eat was gruel in a past life, and that's there's just these things that I think come forth for us to heal now that can fuel these behaviors as well. It's not just so cut and dry as you have no willpower and you should eat less and exercise more. It's so much bigger than that, and it's just, are you willing to really look at that? And are you willing to really do your deeper work and see what shows up on the journey? Because it's empowering, it's eye-opening, it's freeing, it's liberating. And then you're free of these habits and behaviors. And when you step into your power and you claim your worth, life is just so much more enjoyable, and the quality of your life is significantly better. And it's so much easier to navigate the world and things going on, right? There's a lot of people that are really worried right now and in fear and disempowered. And I'm just so detached because I've been doing so much healing, and I realized that fear and worry don't serve, and that I'd rather focus on creating an incredible life versus focusing on what I don't want. Now, there's always discomfort, and everyone has our moments, but healing my relationship with food has helped me clear out so much fear and so much insecurity, and that's such a gift that we get to carry forth with us. So that's part one today, is really around the lineage and your upbringing and the way you were conditioned as a child. All of this impacts your relationship with food as you grow up and can morph into self-sabotage. So what's a takeaway? What's something that you've learned? What's an aha moment that you've had? What's something you want to explore more? Share it in the comments. What do you want to learn about your relationship with food? What do you have questions about? Leave them below. Leave them in the replay chat. And of course, like I was saying earlier, if you are really resonating with this, feel free to reach out and we can talk about support available. I went through binge eating. I went through food addiction. I went through binging and purging. I went through the heavy restriction and the diets and the body image struggles and the obsession and asphyxiating on trying to be a certain weight and have the quote unquote perfect body. I went through the people pleasing. I went through the fear of abandonment. Like all of these things that I teach and assist my clients with and bring into my business, I've personally experienced and healed as well. So if you want to have a conversation about what the journey can look like, I'm happy to either talk to you about it in the DMs, or you can click the link in my bio and book a 30-minute body freedom session. And in that session, you fill out an intake form. It is $50 USD. And then we have 30 minutes together to explore and talk about what's going on with your relationship with food. What are the blocks? Why are you still struggling with it? What are your fears? What's holding you back? What's going on with your hormone health, your gut health, body image, self-love, like what's going on in these different arenas, and what would the journey look like together. And then we can talk a little bit about what the path, maybe why things haven't worked, maybe what you're trying, why it hasn't worked. And to be honest, 9 times out of 10, it's because women are continuing to do the quick fixes in the diet because that's what we've been sold. And sometimes it can feel more uncomfortable to really do the deeper work when that's what's going to set you free. And it's always the most liberating, fulfilling thing that you can do. And the only regret that the women have that come to me is that they didn't do it sooner. But divine timing, everything is unfolding the way that it's supposed to. But stop letting this run your life, right? Get support. That's one of the things my client said in the interview. She's like, get support. Like, don't be ashamed to ask for help. Like, this is deep. And if you've been struggling with this for years or decades and nothing is changing, maybe a missing link for you is actually getting support and someone or people who can help you gain clarity about why you're struggling. What are your binge eating triggers? What are your emotional eating triggers? What triggers you to give your power away to food? Why do you need to use food as a coping mechanism, right? Do you have a food addiction, right? Understanding the brain chemistry, the dopamine, the chasing a dopamine hit, the patterning, right? The ego, how your physical symptoms fuel emotional eating, like gut issues and hormone imbalances and blood sugar, right? And how the emotional eating and the binges fuel your physical symptoms, the unworthiness, the lack of self-love, the need to people please and be perfect and prove. All of that fuels these self-sabotaging behaviors as well. Undoing old beliefs and thoughts and building the new, having you step into this powerful identity of who you really are, which is a very powerful woman who is full of love and worth and deserves to heal. And it's like, are you willing to go there? Are you willing to access it? And if you have fears, are you willing to just have a conversation and talk through those fears and see that it's actually just blocking you from moving forward to receive this deep healing? So I'm happy to have a conversation with you about what the journey looks like there. And if you are, hesitant, but that this is something that could really help you, a conversation is always really helpful. So whether you want a DM or you want to book a body freedom session, they're both there. And I just welcome you in with open arms. It's a safe space, right? To just have a conversation and see where you're at. And right now, as far as support goes, I have 2 options available. I have one-on-one coaching, which you can come into a 1 year, 6 month, or 4 month journey. I do have more intro programs. However, I find most people do want to go into a longer commitment because it does take time to heal this. There's no way to quick fix your way out of this if you really want to heal it. So we can talk about the programs available. They're very transformative. There's a number of success stories on my website. If you really want to go read, there will be video testimonials coming. But the success the women in my world create when they choose to really commit is tenfold. They fully heal the self-sabotage. They heal these things that have been going on for them for years or decades. Their cycles regulate. Their gut issues go away. The weight comes off without them having to force diet or exercise because they're loving their body and they're helping their bodies feel safe. They're clearing out inner child traumas and wounding. And it's done in a gentle, safe, supportive environment. Nothing is forced or pushed. So there's so much available for you here if you're really willing to go on the journey. So one-on-one, and then I also have a self-study program called Freedom from Emotional Eating, and it's 5 weeks, and each week you get a new theme. And there's all really recorded videos, there's worksheets, but it's essentially a great place to start building awareness around your self-sabotage with food, your binge emotional eating triggers, why you're sabotaging. There's body image stuff there. There's blood sugar stuff to help with cravings. I introduce tools to help you start to catch your emotional eating triggers. So if you want to do Freedom from Emotional Eating, the self-study program, essentially you would sign up for that, get instant access to the first week, and then each week for 5 weeks, all the content drips out, and then you have access to that for life. So if you want to talk about that or have any questions about the emotional eating self-study, I'm so happy to answer them for you or get you the link so that you can get in there and get going. So save this, share it with anyone that you think would resonate. I hope you've enjoyed this kind of part 1 of this series. There's going to be a lot more coming. Thank you for those of you that joined me live. Thanks to those of you that are watching the replay. Leave your comments, leave your questions. Like I said, if you want to have a conversation, send me a DM, book a body freedom call. I'm totally here to support you and help you heal this if you feel like going on this journey together feels right for you. So I'm sending you a lot of love, just sending you a friendly reminder. You can heal this. You can gain full freedom from it. Just get out of your own way, clear out the reasons, stories, and excuses why you can't, and be willing to ditch the quick fixes because it's going to make all the difference in the world for you. So have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you again really soon.